Welcome back to WeakT Gaming. What's up, YouTube? Today's video is taken from our Torment Tides of Numenera live streams. If you're not familiar, Torment is an isometric RPG that includes a lot of reading, so please sit back, enjoy story time, and give us a like or a comment on the video at the end. Alright. We're back at it. More reading. I'm actually really enjoying this. I find the writing to be delightful. Personally. Alright, we were hanging out in the town square of Sagus Cliffs. We've got things to do, people to see. It says it's 100%. Hello? The game crash? Very confused. Hello? Hello, computer. I think the game crashed. Alright. But that's embarrassing. For all of the right reasons. That's hilarious. Let's try this again. Yes. Alright. Maybe. Come on. Come on, you can do it. Hey! We made it. Alright. Let's see what Felinda has to say. Felinda, nearly every inch of this merchant's body is covered in tightly wound robes and furs. A hood obscures its head and a mask conceals its face. This doesn't stop you from noticing that it is apparently furious with you. Trembling, it bats at its similarly dressed companion. Both of them turn impassive masks back to you. Neither Felinda nor Steristi could believe it, but the thief had come back. Had he come in shame, ready to return what he had taken? No. His hands were empty, his expression baffled. Felinda crosses swaddled arms. Perhaps the thief had simply forgotten to return what he had borrowed, but this made him no less a thief. Are you narrating me? The thief said, trying to distract Felinda from the matter at hand, but the merchant would not be distracted. Besides, the merchant had been asked this question many times. Fair enough. 10 years ago, this thief had borrowed a book. Felinda wondered if the scoundrel was possibly unfamiliar with the definition of the word. It did not mean taking a thing and keeping it, after all. Steristi pointedly returns to work, ignoring you both. Felinda sighs, massaging its temples with gloved hands. But in the end, Felinda took a deep, deep breath and asked the thief to simply return the sealed and long overdue book with the 5-colored sigil on its cover. How can you remember who borrowed a book 10 years ago? The cunning thief said, hoping to arouse doubt in Felinda's mind, but the hope was a foolish one. Felinda was memory, in the same way that the thief was fatty tissue, fluids, and chunks of calcium. Gross. The merchant crosses its arms. Felinda was out of patience. Was the thief going to return the book or not? I can't really promise anything, but I'll look for it. The thief muttered, ashamed, but Felinda was satisfied, temporarily. And with that, the merchant returns to its work as well. Gold tide raised. Why do you narrate everything I say? The thief said, but Felinda knew from long experience that there was no explaining it. The merchant kneels before a bookshelf and jams book after book into the remaining space. This frustrated Felinda after all. The two merchants were creatures of words, bound in metal and cloth. But whenever Felinda tried to bend these same words into explanations and answers, they crumbled and fell apart. They could not fold themselves around the truth. The merchant slams a final book into place. And so, Felinda said nothing. Once again, Felinda was exonerated. The thief knew he was a thief. Alright, well, see you later. Hey, are you crazy too? The silent merchant traces dark fingers over a cracked scroll. It appears to be ignoring you, as politely as possible. We'll just watch then. The merchant's spread-fingered hands glide over a faded parchment with the faint sounds of quills scratching. Vibrant letters in an unfamiliar tongue appear in their wake. Let's watch some more. The merchant again passes a hand over the page, and you hear the scrape of quill on paper. Dark letters emerge from the shadow of that hand, as if pulled from beneath the page. Why am I not reading the words? Yeah. Why is your partner narrating me? Mr. Risty either ignores you or does not hear you. Why don't you talk? Merchant does not acknowledge your question in the slightest. Alright, well, you guys have fun together. Hello. Sign over this stall says, The Arming Room. Buy, sell, trade. Under the awning, a skinny man with stooped shoulders and a concave chest is cleaning a filth-caked weapon of some kind. He salutes you with a greasy hand. Done in a moment. Have a look around. If you need anything, let me know. What can you tell me about Sagus Cliffs? Good place for the arms trade. Not much call for weapons in the city proper, it's true. The levies keep things quiet. He shrugs. I get most of my business from mercenary companies. The endless battle draws them by the dozens. Explorers, too. Plenty of carkers save up their shins and kit themselves out, all fancy-like. Then they wander down the reef or into the bloom and never come back. Show me what you got for sale. Oh, wow. Yeah, he's got, like, daggers and swords and all freaking fun stuff here, huh? Kind of feel like we maybe should get a shield, right? This guy's got a sword and a shield. She's got a gun. Oh.
Good balance.
Okay. Interesting. What is this? Verd. Medium melee weapon speed. Huh. Let's go talk to the seer. Alright. Never mind. Seer has nothing to say. The genocide! I'll talk to the genocide. That sounds fun. This burly, armor-clad figure stands almost motionless as you approach. He regards you silently through his singular eye. The studs on his arms and the blades on his shoulders are stained and pitted with age. When he speaks, his voice is muffled and artificial, a hollow grumble that emanates from the entirety of the helmet. I am the genocide. If you ask, I must answer. Pass on then, and exchange no words. His surface thoughts are like a crystal pool, alternately transparent or else perfectly reflecting his words. His mind reveals nothing hidden except for a low-level hatred of everything around him. This latter is more a feeling you get than an actual thought that you hear. Alright, what are you? I am a blade that cannot cut, a weapon that cannot strike, a living monument to failure. He shifts his weight. You hear the frown in his voice. I was Ogesti Tel Kotu, the firm hand of tradition. They called me one of the Black Three. Enemies did not understand us. They took my name to mean death in a dozen extinct tongues. Called me Orphan Maker, Hope Smasher, Death's Child. My armies blackened the earth and the skies. My dragoliths scoured the land. Domination was my duty. If they had known, if they had welcomed us, they might have been our thralls. Instead, they became dust. He gestures. All this, it was to have been mine in stewardship for the future of my people. It was promised, but now, his arm falls back to his side. Now I am the genocide, a relic, the last of my kind. Why are you the last of your kind? I know of no others. Kalagat Anvor, he who shares truth and understanding, is dead. Vostuleth Lo, the blinding light of reason, was destroyed. The underspine has fallen. My people are destroyed utterly, and our servant God speaks to us no longer. The clean lines of order and the glory of battle have forsaken us. He pauses. The rest are dust. We rose against a superior foe, and were outmatched. Only I remain to tell the story of the Tabat? You said you had to answer if I asked. Why? From within the helmet you hear a grinding noise, the sound of teeth gnashing amplified. Then, the voice again, bleak. We sat at the river's edge, and we wept for the time that was. We saw nothing more to conquer, and yet our fears still drove us. We had conquered the land, purged its impurities, made it ours. Still, we wanted more. When we heard that humans had come to carve a home, we rejoiced to have a new foe, a new test of our truth. We rode against them. We drove them to the forge of the night sky, to the valley of the Mrajolios, to the dangers of the Black Rage. But those who built atop these ruins, they thwarted us, time and again. And so we brought our constructs and our deadliest warriors to the bay outside the city. We laid a mighty siege. We entered the human settlement. We fought past barricades and traps. Some of our constructs are still here, silent and dead. But when we thought we had achieved our greatest victory, he lowers his head. A powerful nano saved them. With his magics, he called upon the strength of the ancients and captured us. I thought my life was at an end, but he imprisoned me in slow time, trapped me in my body, used machines to paralyze my will. I still remember our glories, and I see the fated future in front of me, and I am powerless to act. The memories of our triumphs remain always at the forefront of my mind, and I must answer the mocking questions of these people, or suffer. Yeah, tell me about that nano that stopped you. That sounds fun. The genocide raises his hands in defeat. He found old knowledge and made it his own. He created defenses that we could not penetrate. Most telling, most effective, the shield generators. He created 3 barriers around the heart of the city, and the last unmoored the city in time. When our constructs touched it, they flashed to stasis. We could not reach the city, but the city could reach us. You feel the ticklings of memory as the genocide speaks of the shields. He continues to talk, oblivious. Yeah, let the memory come. The memory from the orb in the labyrinth comes upon you again, stronger than before, but now you remember it as it happened, not as you wished it had. You fought against the woman with the invisible blade, and you crept past the guards at the base of the stair, and you descended into the basement of your tower. You activated generators and ascended to the command platform on the heights. The nearby panels buzz and crackle with unseen energies. The shields, you mutter. We need the shields now. You press several buttons. A generator coughs into life, and the lights flicker for a moment. A faint veil of energy encircles the city, and then there is a strange and terrible stillness as if the world held its breath. The rest of the memory is bloodshed. The humans of Sega's Cliffs made the stranded Tabat pay. And then the memory fades. You know now that the Nano saved the city, became the changing god. You know it was he who defeated the Tabat. You remember the hatred. But you do not remember the girl who was with you. What was her name? The genocide watches you silently. You seem very calm for someone who has been imprisoned for centuries. I have been defeated. I have nothing to fight for. My captor castrated me with a tool they made to dampen my natural urges. I can remember the actions. I can recall the glory. but I feel shame, regret. I am weakened, but not by my own volition. The genocide squeezes his fists. What does it matter? Those who stood against me are all dead. I am victorious. I no longer fight with a blade. My weapon is time. He leans in closer. I do not die. I cannot be wounded. I am held like a beetle in sap. Why would I not be serene? He settles back. The underspine spoke of my destiny. How did they stop you from trying to escape? The nano who raised the city's shields created a device. He called it the Mind Seer. With it, he violated my mind, my memories, and everything that was at the core of my being. In a fit of vengeance, he tore truths from me. He made me betray my people. He rewrote my mind. He gave me perfect clarity into the past and gelded my ability to shape the future. The Tabat never sought revenge against foes who were mightier than we. We devised stratagems to defeat them. We tested ourselves. We did not punish or hate. Punishment was purification. This, though, is torture. The worst of the city's refuse can mock me now. They can ridicule and jape, and I am powerless to strike them for their impudence. Then, quieter. And now they do not even do that. I have become a fixture, an irrelevance, a non-entity. I am the slave to, you hear his teeth grinding as he thinks of the perfect insult, to peacemakers. I must endure their presence and feel their corruption sink into me daily. Some foreign part of me desires it. He thumps his fist into his hand. But I remember that I will triumph over them. Eventually, they will die, and I will not. Fair enough. Let's talk about the Changing God. His voice is flat and dead. Others have claimed this. I do not know if they say this to torment me, but if our enemy was a god, even if he was once but a man, then to stand against him is to spit in the face of the divine. The Tabat were a holy people. Humans do not believe it, but our rights were as sacred to us as they were profane to your kind. We accepted the will of the ineffable. Any who still live may yet find the mantle of godhood. To be divine is to be beyond the rule of mortal ethics. Those who would be gods must cast aside their concerns if they are to turn against the old teachings. Let's talk about your people. My people. His voice is forlorn. Great warriors, we owned this land. We served the underspine, and it served us. We sought truth and victory. We ascended to epiphany. We were pure, incorruptible, indivisible, even in disunity. We found strength in one another and proved it with bloody blades. But we fell, and the underspine fell. And so, too late, we learned a new truth. But I carry the old ways as a seed within my heart. Interesting. Let's talk about your friends that are all dead. That's probably fine. K.A., the strongest mind of the Black Three. None could stand before him when he bent his mind to their unraveling. Intricate, careful, overwhelming. VL, a methodical planner, collector of curiosities, the toolsmith and construct waker. It was he who brought the ancient machines to life, and I, the knife, the strategist, the blade in their hands. We three were unstoppable. He pauses. Until Sega's cliffs. Until then. Until the corruption of defeat. Tell me about the underspine. Our slave, our god, our prize. It kept us holy, kept us pure and unchanging, anchored to a fixed point. The world turned around us, but we remained constant. When the world brought inconstancy, we fed it blood. He pauses. The underspine was our soul, our confessor. We knew clean, hard rapture from it. We knew our path. It gave us the words of the ancient Tabat, and our path was rigid and unbending. Absolute. What's the benefit of an absolute path? We had no questions about our duty, about our goals, only the particulars. We erased doubts in the purity of utter certainty. Questions raised are questions answered, or they are heresy. No need for self-agony. The necessity of introspection was transmuted into optimization of our paths, into fashioning ourselves into the pinnacle of our achievement. Clear definition in life creates truth, not this pitiful shadow. What happened to the Underspine? You can hear the frown in his voice. Sabotage or failure. One of those under my command told me that it had whispered defeat into his ears, as if it had sickened, lost sight of the true path. Given the question, the Underspine denied this. My soldier was cast out, and I suffered the barb for his doubt. It was later, years later, that the Underspine broke, after our failure, and I have never been sure if the seeds of our defeat were planted in those days. He shuffles his feet. The Nano who captured me, who nailed me to time. He used the Mind Seer to ferret out the Underspine's location. I do not know if he ever found it in the world. He raped a genocide from me and mocked me with his sobriquet. I don't know that word. I was not to blame. I will stand before the Underspine and swear my innocence. Just to be clear, what was the Underspine? He considers. You would not understand. It was a machine. It was a stone. It was a cavern. It was a city. It was the direct voice of our ancestors. It spoke in our heads and in our ears and in our hearts. We heard its voice in our creches, in our daily instructions. Our God was true and strong and singular, not the fickle, inconstant things of the modern day. Okay, but like if your path was unbending, it's like no wonder you broke. I do not bend now. I have been driven down, but I do not bend. I live, and those who stood against me are dead. He turns away from you slightly. Do you have more questions, or do you release me? Let me ask about something else. You feel the genocide's gaze upon you through the visor, but he is silent. Let's talk about those shield generators, huh? I told you their effect. They unmoored the city in time. They severed our supply lines. They left us vulnerable and defeated us. The Underspine strategy failed us. I began to doubt. He shifts slightly. The generators are unused, abandoned, their purpose forgotten. Though the people of this city still swear by our name, and our terrors are fresh in their nightmares, despite the passage of centuries, they have forgotten the means of their salvation. This one, beside me, no longer functions, but one of the others is buried in the ground, not far from here, and has not yet failed. It powers the clock around which those ridiculous fools prance. Alright, well, see you later, bro. This machine towers above you like a dagger, driven into the ground by a giant. It seems much older than the surrounding buildings. Your hands itch to touch the array of dark panels scattered around the machine, as though they have touched them before. Try to remember why this machine feels so familiar. Well, that's using a lot of intelligence. Close your eyes to better concentrate, sinking into the currents of a memory that does not belong to you, or at least not to the body you are in, and you hear the thunderous heartbeat of the operational generator calling you from across centuries. You open cold, focused eyes, ignoring the screams, the drifting tangles of black smoke. Your attention is solely focused on the health of the machine's heartbeat. You reach into the hissing guts of the generator, adjusting and tuning, hoping. The heartbeat fades into the past. Your hand, your body's hand, rests on the rusty surface of the long-dead generator. Examine the device. Your hands slip over the cobbled-together components and greasy cables. The buttons worn by frequent use. It is a strange accomplishment, this machine. Clumsy, but deft. Amateurish, but masterful. Only a brilliant mind could have melded so many disparate parts into a functional device. Unfamiliar memories whisper to you, this device was used, though you don't know how, to generate a field that unmoored everything within it from time itself. Your fingers scrape a rough patch. Lifting them, you see a circonate symbol etched into the side, like a maker's mark. Let's look at it again. A tangle of mismatched parts make up this once functional generator. Once again, you notice the circonate symbol etched into the side, like a maker's mark. Alright. Alrighty then. Ooh, rock slide. A jumble of boulders and debris lies at the foot of the surrounding cliffside. The broken remains of ancient devices lie amongst the fallen stone, while off to one side a metallic canister sticks out of the top of the pile. It appears mostly intact. Examine the canister. Leaning over, you notice that the container is hollow, with an opening in the top providing full access to the interior. A quick glance reveals that it is empty. While most of the canister is relatively intact, a small part of its exterior wall has been pried open, exposing delicate mechanisms. You read your command, you have edge of one of your stat pools, granting you a discount on using points from that stat pool. Each level of edge is... Let's get those quick fingers. Using the pried open panel as a starting point, you delicately disassemble the exterior of the canister and manage to retrieve a fair number of intact components. Nice. Examine the rocks. You notice a slight gleam as the light hits some of the rocks at just the right angle. You lean closer. Tiny mechanical devices are embedded in the rock. A quick search of the rest of the pile reveals that only a small percentage of the rocks are more than they appear. Smash the stones to extract what you can. Yikes. We're not a very strong bunch. Nice. You gather up all the stones you can find with machinery close to their surface and set to work. Soon you have a tidy pile of components that should serve as shins. Dude, I'm rich.
Why not?
What's going on with this performer, huh?
In an instant.
Oh, these are the Changing God cultists. They sound fun. What's your deal? A creature floats before you, hidden inside the bulk of its armor, cloth robes, unmoving and unmoved by your presence. Exactly who or what the thing is, man or machine, mutant or monster, is impossible to discern. Its glass face reveals nothing but your reflection. Its mechanical voice reveals nothing at all. You recall that this creature is known as Phylethus, but you don't know anything else about them. Exquisite, the Phylethus grates in greeting, perhaps lost in its own inscrutable thoughts. Lore, mystical. The Phylethus are said to have a vast knowledge of the mysteries of the Ninth World and the Numenera of ages past, but prying those secrets loose can be a fool's errand. Sounds just like my type of thing. Tiber says thank you. Phylethus does not acknowledge his quip or even his existence in any way. The creature's thoughts are as obscure as its glass face. It's as though it weren't even there. You are exquisite as well. A sound like the grinding of dirt-filled gears is the thing's only response. For a moment that stretches uncomfortably, you feel the cold scrutiny of the Phylethus upon you. At last, it speaks again. You burn, but there is no light. The Phylethus' implacable glass gaze bores through your skin and sees more than others do. It seems to be seeking something from you. Let's try persuasion. Ooh, that's a yikes from me, dog. Hey. The Avatrol whistles while it runs a fearful sound. Perhaps even for the Avatrol. Apparently this is what passes for effusiveness in a Phylethus. Avatrol whistles while it runs, a fearful sound. Perhaps even for the Avatrol. Ha! Do you know anything about the sorrow? About the residence chamber built by the changing god? Silence lingers long until at last the Phylethus speaks. I know it shall be 3. I know the first cannot be trusted. I know one changes as you change. I know they seek an undoing. Its glass face storms, but the Phylethus says no more. Well, what do you want from me? Phylethus ponders silently until at last it asks, when you faced Quoro, why did you not step first with your left foot? The Phylethus accepts your answer in silence, then after a long pause replies, in his vault, the Cloven One reads from his great book to his disciples. He sleeps and awakens, and has forgotten his place in the grimoire. He begins anew. The book is a part of him. He has no legs and takes no steps. It is his own self from which he reads. It is his own self that is incomplete. It is his own self that binds him in the vault of his own mind. So, you've been following me? In memory, cause follows effect. In rain, the colors run. A long rumble suggests that the Phylethus has more to say, but nothing emerges. What more do you want from me? When the Phylethus at last answers, its mechanical voice seems to creak. You did not accept your fall. When you are served the bitter root, will you eat? Probably. Phylethus is silent, showing neither satisfaction nor dismay at your response. Well, I'm raising the tides, bro. Do you have any more questions for me? Its words so rushed they almost jumbled together, the Phylethus asks. When you stood in the place of shifting floors, which way did your shadow fall? I honestly have no idea. A long rumble echoes from inside the Phylethus robes, changing at last to words. In the village of Thome, it is written, the eremite Alligazer descended deep into the darkness, for he could not bear to see his shadow. Why are you so interested in my choices? In its slow rumble, the Phylethus replies, they are not yours. Can you tell me about yourself in a way I can understand? No. Perfect. Interesting. What do your questions mean? What do you want? Yes. The single flat word lingers in the air until the Phylethus adds, what is the answer? Perhaps the thing wants you to answer your own question. What is the answer? Not great at riddles. You want to understand why I have done what I have done. Phylethus accepts your answer silently, giving no clue as to what passes within its impervious robes behind its impenetrable mask. At last the thing replies, the nose does not smell with words. Do you have still more questions? No. Alright, well. Goodbye, sweet angel. As you step away, the Phylethus swivels to keep its glass face trained upon you.
Yes.
What this? As you approach the clock, there is a pause in the argument the duo next to it are having. The petite woman turns towards you. Her hair is unusual, a light, almost yellow color, and her bright eyes dominate her pretty face. Excuse me, but my colleague and I were having a discussion, and... Her eyes fall upon your tattoo, and her breath catches audibly in her throat. Her partner is an unnaturally tall man, gaunt and sour-faced, his voice sonorous, with fingers that twitch and weave through strange contortions. Occasional light sparks in the air as he does. He turns to you and opens his mouth to speak, registers your tattoo, and closes it again. His throat bobs for a moment, and he says, "It is an honor." Listing sighs. Must we indulge in this religious nonsense? Your opinion of our beliefs is noted. We have discussed our differences with you, and you made your position quite clear. Thank you. He turns back to you, anger etched on his face. He collects himself. If I might impose on your time for a moment, will you tell me about your tattoo? How did you shape it? Do you know why it differs from the others? I'm having trouble placing him. Could it be? I need more time to question him. I don't know much about my tattoo. What does it mean to you? You have been touched by the changing god, she whispers. His mind sheltered in you. He shared his dreams, his power with your mind. And when he left your body, he created you, she swallows. The tattoo marks you, all of you, with his symbol. It grows and changes as you mature, so that it becomes your symbol instead. There are more of you. They call you cast-offs. She cocks her head, studying you. You are welcome here, revered one. We stand ready to serve as we can. Have you any questions for us? Sure, who are you? He considers your words before answering, a thoughtful pause. I am Mimion. I am one of the leaders of the cult of the changing god in Sagus Cliffs, and my primary duty is as chief archivist. My colleague is Kasmine. She is responsible for the day-to-day administration of our encampment. What can you tell me about the city? The city your sire built and defended, the cradle of civilization, the center of the empire of knowledge. His eyebrows rise, and his slow tone is effusive. It is among the great works of humanity in the Ninth World. Built on the foundations laid by unknown creators, it has risen to become one of the preeminent cities on Garavia Sound. Oh, yikes. They really like to just sort of slapdash syllables together, huh? He pauses. It is somewhat diminished in these latter years, to be sure. Perhaps if the changing god were to return to lead us to glory. Can you tell me anything more about the city? Many thousands of souls call Sagus Cliffs their home. They came here for safety, for succor, and the changing god protected them. Now you can visit the spires of Government Square where he once sat, or the places where his machines once shifted the city out of time. Your sire even faced the bloom when he was here. She represses a shiver. But you should avoid it at all costs. There is much else to do in the city if you want to walk in your sire's footsteps. Do you know anything about the sorrow? She shudders and touches herself ritualistically on the forehead and on her lips. A monster of deepest nightmare. I've heard that it wants you dead. Every one of the Holy One's creations, all dead. I don't know why, but it hates you. Oops, I clicked on the tattoo again. You were cast off the changing god, our inspiration, the man who has cheated death for centuries so that he might accumulate wisdom. He wears bodies like clothes and abandons them when he has exhausted his studies in them. Yet when he leaves, a spark of consciousness remains. Your consciousness, revered one. What can you tell me about the sire? You mean the most accomplished inventor of our time? The hero of Sagus Cliffs? The man who dodged death itself? The Time Weaver? The man who destroyed the Tabat? Oh, we have so much to say. She catches herself. But perhaps we should wait for another time. Do you know anything about a resonance chamber? Rumor and conjecture, nothing more. Idle speculation from those who wish to pretend to knowledge of your sire's motivations, passed along as fact. He leans out to touch you. Have you seen it? Do you know where it is? What it does? I don't know anything about the resonance chamber, but I was told you might. He smiles tightly and spreads his hands in apology. Not as much as I should like, but we have ways to find answers. His eyes troll your face, and it seems as if he is on the verge of understanding something. It is said by those loyal to your sire that the chamber is the solution to the sorrow, the creature that hunts you all. I'm certain now, we haven't met this one yet. We don't know how, though. She bows her head slightly. We take this as an article of faith. The resonance chamber will save you. He looks sharply at you, all distraction gone. I do not recognize you, he says. You do not match any descriptions we have recorded. She snaps her fingers, as if she's finally figuring out a mystery. Wait. Let me remember your face. She studies you carefully. Oh my, you're new. Are you the changing god? Can it be? She reaches out to touch your sleeve and pulls her hand back quickly. No, I'm not the changing god. Calm down. He nods, satisfied. As I thought, you are a cast-off, one of his children. He touches you with his long-fingered hand, as if in consolation. There's no shame in such a thing. Many cast-offs have come to our attention, and some of them have sought to deceive us so that they might seem more important. He smiles softly. If you are as new as we suspect, it is better for you, for us, to know the truth of your existence than to bluster and lie. Crestfallen, she touches your shoulder. Are you sure you're not? She catches herself. No. Why would you lie about that? With a noticeable effort, she wrenches herself into optimism and she chirps. But you're new, aren't you? You're new. Have you decided what you'll do? What you'll be? Your sire's other children have done amazing things. Amazing. And no doubt you will as well. He lays a hand on her shoulder and his voice is low, cautionary. Cass. She looks away from you for a moment, swallowing sudden tears, and he says, We have a request for you. He gestures toward the clock behind him. Dark figures circumambulate. Yeah, sure. That's probably a word. It's definitely a mixture of two words, so it's probably one word. Dark figures circumambulate these clock faces. I theorize that your sire's creation of the time shields that protected this city established a connection with his future selves. Given this, we believe those figures may be cast-offs, or ghosts of cast-offs. Perhaps the living shells of the bodies your creator has worn previously. His fingers shrug eloquently for him. The clock is unmoored in time, you see. We do not have a knowledge sufficient to investigate, but you might. You have a connection with he who created the clock. You should be able to align it with the present time and uncover who these figures are. A gentle, rare smile appears. If you cannot, at least you will increase our store of knowledge. She smiles bravely, looking between Mimnion and you, and says, And then we can answer the questions you must have, right, Mim? Do you have any idea how to fix the clock? We have tried. I have appealed to the Order of Truth. I have spoken with eminent seekers of knowledge. We have sent for wisdom from as far as the Steadfast. A great achievement, you must agree. None have given us an answer. We believe your sire created the device, or had a hand in it, perhaps. Dismay dances across his fingers. His hungry-eyed compatriot steps in. Perhaps you can find an answer where others have failed, and then we can help you. She turns away. You will have our boundless gratitude, revered one.
Making a note. All right.
This complex machine towers over you. Its purpose is unclear. Well, it's a clock. But the three circular faces set into the ground remind you of clocks. Something is wrong with the machine, however. It's partially transparent, shimmering in the air when you look directly at it. The clock faces seem to show several different times at once. Humanoid silhouettes ripple beneath the central clock face. One places his hand against the face as though it were a glass wall. They seem to be watching you. Well, let's examine the machine. The towering mechanism wavers in the air, similar to Kali. It appears to be in several states at once, though all of the machine's states are in the exact same location. You can't touch it either. Your hand passes right through the structure. As you pull your hand away, a memory strikes you as powerfully as if someone took a club to your chest. You are working at the clock. It is no longer transparent, but perfectly solid. There is a noise behind you, so they've come, the three traitors. They think to surprise you, but through the powers of the clock, you have foreseen this moment. There is the faintest sound of metal sliding against leather. You slap a hand on the central clock face, activating the clock's arcane powers. You're not sure what it will do to them, but it's better than what they'll do to you. There's a flash. Arcs of energy stretch out from the clock over your shoulders to your would-be attackers. You don't see what happens to them, but they quickly disappear along with their screams. As the last shreds of the memory fade, a swirl of energy passes through your body. Cold barbs prick every muscle. Suddenly, tidal forces arc from the clock to three ancient devices in the cultist encampment. The clock recognized something inside you, or maybe vice versa. Either way, you have inadvertently activated the nearby devices.
Making a note.
Okay. Well, can we
I'm ready.
go touch the devices? As you approach this device, Circus Minor changes around you. People are dressed differently and speak differently. Whole new structures appear, including an enormous building rising from the edge of the square. You look down at the device. A series of images flit across its surface. They don't appear related to the changes around you. You see faces of other people and places, all of them familiar. Examine the images on the surface of the device. As soon as you focus on them, you feel a warmth on your head where your tattoo is. The images respond to your thoughts, slowing and changing at your whim. It's something about your body that allows you to do this, which perhaps means that only you can even see the images. You immediately recognize the pictures as pieces of memory, specifically the three memories you saw back in the fathoms of your mind. Let's look at the underwater city memory. The memory is recent. Two men, both with tattoos like your own, are in an underwater city, searching for something. The denizens of the city chase them from their quarry and ultimately surround and capture them. As you review the memory, you get a strange feeling in your mind that you can only describe as a query. The device wants something from you. Suddenly you remember the memories in the device are possibilities, but you can lock one of the memories here, so it is the only one that displays. You don't remember what purpose that served, though. Look more closely at the changes around you. Circus Minor looks almost completely different. All the people are dressed strangely, and though they speak the truth, they use many terms and phrases that you don't understand. The square has changed as well. All of the tents are gone. The buildings are more colorful and less weathered. One building in particular rises from the edge of the square, a tower of purple rocks some 50 stories high. A mural is painted on the side, though you can't see the details from here. Look at the memory in the Lush Valley. Somehow you know the memory is from a long time ago, centuries ago probably. A man and a woman, both with tattoos like your own, are surveying a lush, secluded valley for some purpose you cannot recall. And the city under siege. Somehow you know this memory is ancient. It might have occurred 1,000 years ago. A man and a young girl race through the streets of Sagas Cliffs. All around them, the city is attacked by a terrible people, the Tabat, you recall. The man takes them to an ancient machine somewhere in the city. Then he and the girl disappear. Oh, leave this one alone.
Fine.
Is a puzzle. A strange feeling comes over you as you approach this device, as if someone were sneaking up on you in the corner of your eye. When you look, there's no one there. It feels like something is different, though, but you can't put your finger on what. A series of images flit across the surface of the device itself. They don't appear related to the changes around you. You see faces of other people and places, all of them familiar. Look more closely at the changes. Changes are difficult to notice at first, but after a moment you figure it out. Circus Minor is the same, but the crowd is different. Most of the people in the stalls and buildings are not the same as those you've seen around the square. Those few you do recognize are younger by several years. So that would be, yeah, I think we've solved the puzzle.
All right.
We just need to. As you approach this device, Circus Minor is thrown into chaos. Buildings are on fire. People are screaming and running for their lives while armored soldiers hunt them. None of them seem to pay any attention to you, though. It's some kind of vision, not reality. Look more closely at the changes around you, just to be clear. Circus Minor is under attack. Squads of armored soldiers roam the streets, hunting and killing anyone they find. Mobs of people flee in terror, with only a few hapless souls trying and failing to fight them off. Soldiers are completely encased in jagged metal armor. You can't even tell if they're human. Looking beyond the carnage, the square in this vision looks wildly different. Many of the buildings that are on fire don't exist at all when you step away from the device, having been replaced by other structures. So this is the besieged.
I'm going.
And this one is the... It's just younger people? Yeah. This is the recent memory. Images of the two men in the underwater city are now only images play on the surface of this device. They search for something, are chased, and then are captured over and over again in an endless loop. As soon as the image is locked in place, a ribbon of energy stretches into the air, connecting the control device to the clock. Yeah.
On it.
And this is the ancient memory. No, that's the besieged. It's got to be this one. As soon as you lock this third image, a final surge of energy arcs through the air from the device to the clock itself. The clock shines for a moment, then becomes solid, fixed into a single state. At the same time, the device in front of you goes dark, the images disappear, as does the strange view of the city's past. The machine is solid now. Each of the three clock faces shows a single time, though none of them point to any time measurement that you understand. You lean closer to the central clock face. Three shadowy figures still lurk within. Their features almost discernible now. Suddenly the figures surge out of the clock towards you. Intense pressure strikes your head like a steel spike. Then everything goes black. This has been a WeakT Gaming video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, punch the little notification bell, maybe give us a like or a comment, and you know what? You have a nice day.